Welcome to our ABU lunchtime learning session. And today we've got a very special guest, and it's a very special talk today. Not something, not the usual. And I'm really proud to welcome SAPNA PIEROUX, who has been a great support of this group for a very long time, since the beginning. And she is an author, multi-award winning brand consultant, designer, author and speaker, and the founder of Inner Visions ID. SAPNA, it's wonderful to have you here and welcome. But we're not today going to be talking about your branding and your incredible professional expertise. We're going to be talking to you about you and breast cancer, because in August, SAPNA, you were diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer.
Yes.
So I can't say how sorry I am to have, and how sorry and upset I was to have heard that. But it's so, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Week, and you are doing Cancer Research Awareness Week. I think that's what it is, isn't it?
Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Month, yes, week. Got all of it wrong, but yes.
That's okay.
But it's wonderful to have you here, and you're an absolute star for coming and talking about it. So let's start with what happened. How did this, how did you find out? What did you find? What did you know?
Yeah, because, well, my best friend died of breast cancer in 2008. And she was actually, I will tell a little bit about her story, because she was 36 when she found a lump. And it was when she was breastfeeding her 2-month-old baby. And she went to the doctor. And I think things have moved on a little since, but she went to her doctor and he said, women your age don't get breast cancer. It will be a blocked milk duct, just go home, massage it, warm baths. And she did that and it carried on growing, and she went back and he said he dismissed her again. And then eventually, by the time they detected it, it was stage 4. And unfortunately, she passed away two years later.
Tragic.
Leaving a husband and a toddler. But I've been paranoid about breast cancer ever since, because of what happened to my friend. So I would check more than what the doctors say, check monthly at the same time of your cycle, or monthly. I was checking almost daily, and I would put body lotion on after the shower, and just use a firmer touch, really, just to press, and just sort of as I'm putting the lotion on. And one day because I didn't feel a lump, that's not what I discovered, I felt a slight change in the texture of my skin. It was ever so subtle.
Wow.
And it was to the point where, because I've been working out loads, I thought, oh, I'm firming up.
Yeah, you're very fit.
I am very fit. I'm really fit. I eat well. I exercise almost daily, or did. And I thought, oh, I'm firming up. And then I checked the other side and I thought, no, that's not firmer. And then I thought, it almost in the same breath, this all happened in seconds in my head. But it's, oh, you silly girl. This, your chest muscles are underneath your breast tissue. You can't exercise your boobs firmer, basically. But no amount of exercise will make them firmer. So I thought, well, that's a bit weird, because it just feels a bit firmer. And the area was about 3 fingers wide by about 3/4 of the length of my hand. So it was a big area. It felt different.
That's a big area, yes.
It felt different. And it just felt like the skin had got a bit thicker. That was all. So I mentioned it to my husband, and he went, oh, go and get that checked out. And I said, well, I've actually got a mammogram booked, my first mammogram booked. You get the letter from the NHS when you turn 50. And so I had that booked in August the 18th. And he went, oh, I'd go sooner than that. And it was actually Helen Bullen, who's part of this community as well.
Yeah.
With her, and I'd been reading her content and whatever. And I messaged her out of the blue, and I went, I know you don't really know me, but I've found something, and I'm going to go and check it. I'll get it checked out on August the 18th. And this was back in July. And she went, no, get it checked out now.
Wow.
Don't wait. She said, do not wait. So, and she said, go and get it, make an appointment and come back to me and tell me when you've made that appointment. So I have Helen to thank for the early detection of that. And then they whizzed me through. Basically, I had the mammogram, I had an ultrasound that very same day. They saw something, he pulled in another guy, they ended up having a chat, and then they did 3 biopsies on me, and then they said, go into this guy's office, like into his office, and he took me in and he told me I got a 1 in 50 chance that I hadn't got cancer. That all happened on the first.
Gosh, that must have been a shocking experience.
Yeah, it all happened rather fast.
Yeah.
And it was that thing, the last time I'd had an ultrasound was when I was pregnant, and obviously then you're looking for a baby.
Yes.
And I remember looking up at the screen thinking, this time I was looking for nothing.
Yeah.
But then this big black mass appeared, and I was like, oh, and it looked massive on screen. And he went, no, it's fine. He said, because he said it's zoomed in. It was only 16, 17 millimeters.
Right.
It was tiny. So the thing is, what I'd felt was actually a much bigger like thinking about the area that I'd felt. But it was big. So I'd caught it really, really, really early. And that was confirmed the following week when we went to get the test results from the biopsy.
Goodness. So how did you feel at that point then? That must have been a very scary period where you knew there was very likely to be something, but it hadn't been confirmed. That must have been a difficult time.
Yeah, it's the not knowing in any of these stages. At the moment, I'm sat here not knowing if I'm going to need chemo, right?
Yeah.
You can't get your head around not knowing. Like,
No.
uncertainty is really hard for the human brain to deal with.
Yeah.
So that week of like waiting for the test results was the hardest bit. And we had a weekend planned with my mum and dad that weekend prior to all of this kicking off. And Andy went, do you still want to go to see your mum and dad? And I went, absolutely. Yeah, whatever the outcome, I want to see my mum and dad. So we packed our bags and we packed the boys, and we were all going up north. So we had to bring them to the hospital with us. So they came with us to get the results, but we sat them in reception with their iPads and their phones and whatever. And we just said,
right.
I didn't know if he was going to turn around to me and go, you've got 3 weeks to live. Right. No.
So SAPNA, go back a bit. So obviously, Andy, your husband, knew from the very start.
Yes.
But I know that you've told your children, your boys. So did they know right when you came back from that appointment? Did you tell them at that point? And how did you tell them? And what did you tell them?
Well, yeah, because we didn't know if we had cancer.
No, exactly.
But I had a 1 in 50 chance that it wasn't. And interestingly, a local parent had gone through this exact experience. Well, not exact, everybody's cancer journey is different, but she'd gone through chemo, lost her hair, lost her eyebrows, lost her eyelashes, and kept it from her 2 children throughout the whole thing.
Wow.
To the point where I saw her out and about, and I was like, everything all right? And then she told me, and she went, don't tell Leon, my child, in case it got back to her children.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, and I'd actually had this conversation with Andy before, as a theoretical conversation. I was like, God forbid this ever happens to me. Lo and behold, it did. But God forbid this ever happens, because I think we'd have to tell the children, because how could we? I mean, if I end up losing my hair, my eyebrows, my eyelashes, they're going to notice.
Yes, you can.
They're going to notice. And Leon's a very astute little boy.
Yes. How old are your boys again?
So they were 9 and 12 when this all happened. Leon's just turned 10, but he's incredibly brainy, incredibly intelligent. And I just thought, I can't. We're very open with our children as well. We could, there's no way we would be able to hide something of this message from them. And all the appointments, I've been going to appointments twice a week.
Yeah.
So we've had to leave them with childcare, and we've had to, sort of, it was just impossible. Anyway, and this is in the middle of the holidays when we found out. So we had them with us all the time. And so we'd sat them down actually after that first appointment, and we came back home. We'd left them with a friend, came back home, and we said, look, we've got some bad news. Sit down. And I could only hug one of them because I'd had the biopsies here. I was really sore. So Andy had the other, and I had Luke, and Andy had Leon, and we sat down, and Leon went, are we not moving house? And I went, no, darling, we are still moving house, because he didn't want to move house, you see.
Oh, right.
And I said, no, it's not about the house. And I said, and then I just said in really simple terms, I was like, Mummy found a lump. Again, I didn't, over-egg the detail of it. Mummy found a lump, went to the doctors. They think it might be cancer. It's a 1 in 50 chance that I haven't got cancer. And we told them that. Obviously, mic drop, it was silence as they absorbed that. And then for Luke, his first experience of cancer was actually, he followed a YouTuber, a gamer called Technoblade. And this kid died of cancer at 23, age 23.
Oh, goodness.
And he documented his, he was a gamer anyway, and then he got cancer, and so he was still gaming and still had followers, and it went all the way through to, when he died, and then his dad left a message. And this was about 3 or 4 months ago.
Wow.
So Luke had been really upset by that, and so his immediate thought was that that's going to happen to me.
Yeah, of course.
So we had to assure him that, we found it early. We've got a really good chance, it's going to be okay. So then when we went to the doctors the following day at the hospital, we brought the boys with us because they knew we were going to get our results, and we knew we wanted to tell them first. But we didn't, as I say, we didn't take them into the room because I didn't know what he was going to tell.
No, quite. No,
nor how I was going to respond.
No, indeed.
And actually, as I was saying to you earlier, a big wave of calm actually came over me when I got the diagnosis. And I did say, shit, but that's all I said. And I was just like,
that seems very restrained, Sapna.
Yeah, you can bleep it out if you want. But I was just like, yeah, it was because I'd not been feeling myself for about a year before. And
I was aware of that. Yeah.
We talked about that in the time, because I've been having lots of conversations with people and saying I don't feel myself, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. I'm not saying the cancer had been around for that long, but I'd had a sustained period of stress in my business with 3 nutter women, which you also know the story of, and and that was a sustained period of stress that was 6 months. And I absolutely believe that period of stress is what changed things in my body that then allowed this to happen. Because there was no genetic influences, no cancer in my family whatsoever, not on my dad's side or my mum's side, that's in our bloodline. No lifestyle indicators. I used to sort of casually have the occasional fag when I was, a teenager or in media. But I mean, I don't do anything. I have a glass of wine. No. I have a glass of wine and that's it. And the doctor said it's absolutely not that. Mine was a hormonal one anyway. Hormonal cancer. And there's more than 200 different types of breast cancer alone.
Yeah. So Sapna, what you're saying is you think this stressful period in your business with people you were finding very difficult to deal with, that could have triggered the cancer?
I believe that there's a bit much stronger mind-body connection than conventional medicine. And I'm firmly on the side of conventional medicine. My parents are both doctors, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think that there is a lot about the mind and body that is not yet discovered.
Yeah.
And my friend Nicola is actually a nurse, and she was at a convention or a talk just a couple of days ago, and she sent me a text saying they've said that there's no medical proof that stress causes cancer. But what I'm saying is that stress does lower your immune system.
Yeah.
And my oncologist surgeon told me that we are making cancers from the day we are born, right? Our body is creating cancers all the time, and our immune system fights them off.
Right.
Right. And we
didn't know that. That's fascinating.
Well, no, I didn't know that. But that we are actually, your cells are kind of multiplying, and sometimes they multiply in a wrong way.
Yeah.
That's what cancer is. And we're doing that from the day we're born. But keeping yourself healthy, obviously, helps your immune system to batter those away. Now, I think that my body was under such amount of stress that something happened within my immune system that has allowed this to take place, because there was no other indicators that would put me as high risk of getting breast cancer.
No.
And even if that is not true, and even if that is medically disproven, my message is very benign, unlike my cancer. But it's move away from, what I've learned from this is move away from stressful situations, toxic people, toxic situations, because they're not good for our overall well-being anyway.
No.
But I was trying to battle through this, and if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have walked away a lot quicker and just gone, do you know what? And then just gone and done some meditation or something. So yeah, but going back to the kids thing,
yes,
quite interesting, because I then spoke to a really good friend of mine afterwards. Andy was putting the kids to bed, and he was talking to them. They had lots of questions. So they had that. And I spoke to a friend of mine who is a very close friend. I've known her for over 20 years. She's a fantastic mother. And her immediate response was, oh, no, you shouldn't have told the boys.
Oh.
Let them be children for as long as possible. Let them be children for as long as possible. And I was like, then I thought, oh gosh, this other mum didn't tell her kids, and my friend is telling me not to tell my kids, that I shouldn't tell my kids. Have I done the wrong thing?
Yes.
Have I done it wrong? Am I getting this wrong? So the next time I went to see the oncologist, the following weekend, I asked him and I said, should we have told our children? And he said, actually, yes, you should have told your children. I'd also checked in with Luke, by the way, and said, should I have told you? Because
Yeah.
Auntie Blur said that I shouldn't have told you. And then this other mum didn't tell her kids. Did I do the right thing? And he said, Mummy, if the worst, it took him a while to think about it, but he said, if the worst thing had happened to you, if the very worst had happened to you, we'd feel so shocked that would have happened. It would have been a lot harder. And I said, well, I hope it'd be difficult, whatever, you know, if the worst thing happened, whether we told you or not, I'd have hoped you'd found it difficult. But, you know, and he just said, no, he goes, but if something like that happened and you hadn't told us, it would feel like you didn't trust us.
Oh, what a very thoughtful and intelligent response.
He's amazing. He's been amazing.
Yeah.
But and so I said, great. And then I actually asked the oncologist about it. And he said, no, you did the right thing, because kids' imaginations are far worse quite often than the reality.
Yeah.
And if you're having, you know, whispered conversations and kind of you're disappearing off twice a week and they don't know where you're going,
Yes.
at odd times of day, you know, we couldn't disguise them as date nights. Then they're going to pick up on vibes. They're going to pick up on secrecy. And like, at what point do you tell them? When your hair falls out? You know, like at what point do you tell? So we just took them on the journey with us. I spoke to an NLP coach friend as well about this, and I was telling him the story. And he said, what you've actually done, I'd never thought about this. He said, what you've actually done is modeled that you've gone to them with the worst thing that's happened to you in your life right now, and you've trusted them with this information.
Yeah.
And what you've modeled is that they can do the same to you when bad things are happening to them in the future, or any time, that they can come to you no matter how bad it is. And I was like, oh, that's actually really powerful. So
yes.
I did tell my children.
I think that's amazing, Sapna. I think it's incredibly brave of you to do it as well, because it must have been so painful for you and for Andy to do that. But I think it's such a courageous and such a good thing to have done. It's clearly they're going to be, I mean, it can only make your relationship with them better.
Stronger. Oh, yeah.
And yes, stronger, exactly. And it will make them stronger people as well. And not kind of, you know, I can't help feeling that if, you know, when you lie to people, it makes them neurotic, basically, because people know when something's, you know, children or adults know when something's going on and you're insisting it's not, or vice versa.
You know, that's just therapy, isn't it? Like just banking therapy up, because, you know, there's a grown-up told me that he found out that his mum kept her cancer from him until like the week before she passed away, and she lives like in the States and he's over here, and it's just like, that's really hard. Like, she didn't tell her children she was going through this, and they were grown-ups, they're like in their 40s, but she didn't want to worry them. But I think, you know, my kids would have been more worried if we were whispering and kind of closing doors and having conversations behind closed doors.
Absolutely. There. I mean, there's lots of people here, Sapna, agreeing with you, partly about the mind and body thing and stress. Jenny and Faye and Debbie are all saying that they agree. And Faye, whose partner's ex-wife is dying of cancer at the moment, has the same, you know, sort of difficult experiences, and thinks, you know, says so hard telling the kids, and how his other half, her other half, and his ex-wife really struggled because the news for them was all bad. So yeah, I mean, a very, very difficult thing to do. But
I mean, yeah, it's different situations, isn't it? I mean, some people may. I'm not saying everybody who's got cancer has to tell their children. We knew that our children would be better knowing than not. We also knew my prognosis was good, but even if the prognosis was bad, I think we'd have to tell them, because for me, it was about keeping them on the journey with us, and for them even to appreciate me, you know, like they've been so like, oh my gosh, mummy, ever since, and they've been so protective. A lovely little story was when we went to get the results. I say our results like it's all of us, but you know, when one person has,
it is really when you make it that, and
the whole family has got this cancer now. It's not just my cancer, because it affects Andy and it affects the boys. But we all went to get the results, and Andy was walking with Leon, and I just turned around and Luke was lagging behind a little, so I held my hand out for him to catch up, and I leant over and just whispered, you know, well, he's a little bit scared, and I wanted him I wanted him to, I was giving him permission to tell me how he was feeling, right? Because I felt he was lagging behind because he was to go in, and so Mummy's a bit scared. And he just went, Mummy, can you just stop walking for a second so I can give you a hug?
Oh.
And wasn't that sweet? Because he wasn't telling me how he was feeling. He was actually only concerned about protecting me and how I was feeling.
Yeah.
I just think that was just so beautiful.
Absolutely.
What lovely kids they are. They've been brilliant.
Yeah, completely. They are lovely. Faye says, loving Sapna's attitude. She's got such a beautiful attitude.
Oh, thank you, Faye.
Sapna, your oncologist said that breast cancer is an affluent disease. What on earth did they mean by that? Surely breast cancer affects everybody.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought. And I thought it was an odd thing. And so I questioned him about it. And I went, what do you mean by that? I thought it was, a white middle class disease sort of type thing. And he said, well, and I actually, my initial thought was like, oh, because I like a little bit of wine. Was it that, because I was like, it was the only thing that I could have thought of that might have impacted my diagnosis. And actually, my friend Nick said, no, I've got a friend who's teetotal and they got cancer as well. So don't go down that route. I think as women, we tend to blame ourselves if something bad happens. And we, if I was assaulted once and then suddenly I was like, well, was it the length of the skirt I was wearing? It's not actually, no, it's not my fault that this thing has happened to me. And he said, no, it's not to do with the wine or your lifestyle. It's to do with education, which is what kind of triggered this whole need to kind of talk about it more, and what instilled in me that this needs to be communicated more. And it's about education, because more affluent women tend to be better educated. They tend to look after themselves more. They tend to check themselves more. And if they find anything, they're more likely to go.
Right. I see.
So from that flip side, what he didn't say, but what I extrapolated was that women who are less affluent probably don't look after themselves as much, probably don't know how to check and don't know what to check for. If they do find something, maybe even they live with pain on a daily basis because other parts of their body are going wrong, and because they're not looking after themselves. So they might be overweight, or they might have been doing other things that cause them pain. They're not looking after themselves. If they do find something, they're too scared to go to the doctor quite often. Because that would make it real.
Yes.
So they go to the doctor. So there are women in other sectors that are dying of breast cancer, but it's not being listed as breast cancer.
Right.
Or detected as breast cancer. They're just dying.
Yes. So Ariposa actually has just said something about it in my part of the world. I'm not quite sure where you are, Ariposa. Cancer is still a sort of dreadful secret, and people don't talk about it. And in fact, Sapna, you're a British Asian. Do you think there's a cultural difference just within this country of how we approach cancer?
Yes, I think there is. And that's another reason that I wanted to particularly speak about it, because and my mum and dad were both doctors, by the way. So I've had a conversation with my mum about this as well. They're both retired now. But my mum said, absolutely, in our family, and I can't speak for all Asian families, and I'm certainly not speaking, but my experience of, if there's bad news in the family, it's traditionally just gets swept under the carpet and we don't talk about it. My dad always used to say, don't wash your dirty linen in public. We don't wash our dirty linen in public. So we present this facade that everything's perfect. And I've always been a bit of a rebel anyway. So I was like, when I got this, I actually went live on Facebook, and I went, and I didn't tell my parents I was going to do this. I told them.
Right, gosh.
I told them I'd got cancer before they knew first. I mean, I called them as soon as we came out of the hospital on the way back up north. But I didn't tell them that I was going live on Facebook and making an announcement. But I just thought, again, it was like, who starting to decide who you tell and who you don't tell, that just takes up too much energy. And I was like, oh, do I tell I'm going to have to tell my clients because I'm going to not be able to make that meeting. And, and I just thought, oh, do you know what? Just tell everyone. I told a few key clients that I was working with at the time personally, and then just did a blast. And my mum said she's been following my story, on Facebook, and she said she's so proud of me for the fact that I am speaking of it, which fills me with pride and joy that my mum. But Asian communities, and I spoke to a friend of mine who was Afro-Caribbean, who had breast cancer about 15 months ago, and she's clear now. But she actually came into Charing Cross Hospital for her checkup. and so she popped in to see me. We had this conversation, and and I said, is it the same for members of the Black community as well? And she said yes. And she said, and I hadn't even thought about it, it's because these parts of our bodies are sexualized.
Yeah, right.
And so for a lot of cultures where there is kind of shame around the body and shame around displaying parts of your body. Now, if people can't even talk about it, and if it's put under cloak, and it's put under cloaks and it's covered up, and it's women won't be checking, they won't, if they find anything, how can they go to their doctor, especially if he's male?
Yeah, of course.
If there's so much shame around it. And my mum said also cervical cancer is another one, because it's these sexualized body parts. And that's part of the reason that we need to kind of demystify this. We need to
indeed.
Somebody put on my LinkedIn, it was a lady from America, and she was kind of Afro-Caribbean descent, and she said that she'd gone through breast cancer and was she used the word ashamed to tell her clients. She was too ashamed to tell anybody.
That's just so sad. Actually, yes, Araposa has just said that she is from Grenada in the Caribbean. So yeah, absolutely. I also just want to say, Sapna, that you must come back and read all the comments on this post, because everybody is so supportive of you and loving the way you've been communicating. And I mean, I'll just read out Debbie's. She says, I've been following this journey with you on Facebook. Thank you for letting us into such a private time of your life. You've lifted the mystery off our shoulders. So I mean, you really are doing a fantastic thing by sharing this with us. And
I've had private messages from women who have been telling me that they're checking their boobs more, that they've dug out that letter from book their mammogram. I've had women who were there was a lady who was diagnosed about the same time as me, and she said she hadn't told her network, and she found it inspiring that I was out there on LinkedIn, still running my business, still doing stuff, but dealing with this at the same time. And then she found the courage to come out and tell her network, and sort of message me, and she went, I've done it, and we're going through the parallels at the moment. So I messaged her and I was like, thinking of you, and she was like, I've got my mastectomy tomorrow, how did you know? And so we kind of, and then she messaged me afterwards, so that. And then I've had another friend who contacted me and said that she just had her cancer surgery yesterday. She'd only told 5 people, because I was sharing on social media. She knew that I understood what she was going through and the emotions that she was feeling, so she didn't feel as alone. She didn't feel, she
absolutely
knew I've been having these private, and I got a guy contacting me saying that his 89-year-old mum is going through breast cancer.
Wow, goodness.
And she sounds like quite a character, and she's really pissed off that she's going to be losing her gorgeous hair, because he goes, she's got amazing hair. But I ended up having a chat to him for about half an hour, complete, stranger, but we connected over this. So I'm making lots of new connections in very different ways, but I think
that's wonderful. And I mean, you really are, I think, even if people don't contact you, I'm sure there are loads of people out there who are seeing what you're saying and feeling that they're not alone as well. So I think this sharing and this communication you're doing is absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
But Sapna, you've had a mastectomy now. How are you actually feeling? You look fantastic.
Thank you. I feel fine. I feel frustrated that I can't exercise for the next 6 weeks. As I was saying, I was exercising virtually daily. It's been 2 weeks ago that I came out of hospital. Well, I had my operation 2 weeks ago, and I had a mastectomy where they in the end, I had so many tumors, by the way, in that boob. They were all tiny, but he said they were like peppercorns in a loaf of bread. They couldn't do a lumpectomy. I guess, to use another foodie analogy, I'd end up with a boob like a piece of Edam cheese with lots of little holes in it, and they couldn't guarantee that they'd get it all out. So they had to get lose the whole breast. Then I got a tummy tuck. They took out the belly fat. So I got a tummy tuck. There's a plus point there. I've got a stomach as taut and toned as a 20-year-old's pre-children.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really glad you've got something beneficial out
of it. And they reconstructed my boob. So I don't know what anyone can see here, but there we go. That spot the difference, really. But I haven't got a nipple because they had to do, as I was telling you, they had to do microsurgery and take the blood supply from the fat down there in an artery, and they've connected it all up. So it's all connected up. He's done it through a microscope. The surgery was done through a microscope, connecting up the capillaries, connecting up the arteries. So it's warm to the touch, and it feels, kind of a part of me.
Yeah, just Extraordinary. I mean, I didn't realize it was such a complex operation. It's amazing.
Well, you know, there's 3 different ways that you can go with this. You can either have
Right.
a mastectomy with just a flat scar, which is actually what my LinkedIn friend went for. She just went for the mastectomy, and she said she's actually quite proud of her scar.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, well, you're a braver woman than I am for doing that, because I felt I really did want the reconstruction. And then there's 2 ways you can go reconstruction. You can either have the silicone implants, like when people get breast enlargements, you can have one of those put in. But I took what they call the Rolls Royce of treatments, which was taking the belly fat, and then it's warm to the touch, because the implants are cold to the touch. So yeah,
Yeah,
they did it all at the same time, and apparently that they allowed 8 hours for that operation, and they completed mine in 3 hours 40 minutes. And because the doctor said that I was very well behaved under anaesthetic. So
what does that mean?
My husband said, "Oh, so that's what it takes."
Faye, by the way, says, great, they've done it at the same time. You can get really good 3D nipple tattoos.
Yes, well, they're actually going to reconstruct a nipple. So it will be 3D and then a tattoo, but that won't be for another 6 months. And then they're going to make this one kind of match up, because now I've got one very pert boob and one that's slightly older. So they're going to me well behaved, Lucy says. I know I need to be anaesthetized in order to be well behaved. So that's the way to do it.
Wow. Well, gosh, that's amazing. So do you what happens now, Sapna? What's your prognosis? Do you know what the future holds? Will you have to have chemo? Is this?
I don't know at the moment. No. I'm right in the middle of kind of recovering from my surgery. They said I won't. I've got an oncologist appointment on Friday. They have, at the very least, obviously, so I've had the cancer cut out of me, and they said that I'm probably clear of cancer, probably, but there's no 0% and there's no 100% in medicine, right? There may be what he called a few rogue cells floating around, which chemotherapy would mop up, in his words. And so I'm kind of, it's almost, is it my decision whether I do that? Because the chances are they have got it all. Do I put myself through that and lose my hair and all the other side effects that come with it? Or do I just go, actually, I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna take my chances. But then I thought, well, what if it comes back? I'd have to be an absolute arsehole to put my family and my kids through this again, and just for the sake of vanity, decide not to do it. So I think I'm gonna have to probably bite the bullet, but I don't know yet. And there are some forms of cancer, as I said, but there's over 200 different types of breast cancer alone.
That's extraordinary. I didn't know that either.
Various different treatments, and some depending on what I will have to take hormone tablets for the next 10 years.
Right. So what kind of hormones, and what's that for?
I'm not quite sure. I've not had the prescription for them yet.
No,
I'm literally finding things out on a need-to-know basis, because I can't look too far ahead and go, oh, well, that might happen, or that might happen, and then
absolutely
it's overwhelming. So I've been putting one foot in front of the other and just dealing with the information that I get at the time. So I'm going to be meeting the oncologist. He's going to tell me, so I will have to take hormone tablets for the next 10 years, which come with their own set of side effects. Although my husband looked those up and said they're pretty much menopausal side effects, because they're hormone related. It's like, brilliant. So I'm going to be on the menopause for like the next 10 years in effect, and can't take HRT to deal with it.
No. Well.
But my doctor said, don't Google anything. He said, after the diagnosis, whatever you do not go to Dr. Google, because you can't type the word cancer in and expect it to all make sense, right? There's also nut jobs on there. So I've kept off the internet. I've kept my eyes literally blinkers on and just focused on what the doctors are telling me. They're very eminent. I actually said to him, the only site I've been on is the Macmillan site. And he went, oh, that's really good. He goes, I wrote most of that one myself. So he's quite an eminent, they're both Harley Street surgeons, and I'm just trusting them that they know what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Faye says estrogen blocker for breast cancer was what her aunt had, and also that healthy keto can help menopause effects. But I'm sure, there are many advice. I'm sure you'll get loads of advice on menopausal symptoms of all sorts.
It is like having cancer is a bit like having a baby. No offense, Faye, but everybody tries to give you advice. And it's a bit like, well, there's so much coming at me. I'm gonna try and do what feels right for me and for my family, and and you know,
absolutely.
just kind of continue. I don't think I think my diet's pretty healthy, so I'm just going to
You've
continue.
always been so fit and healthy, and you know, sort of taken that very seriously. So it just
Yeah.
it just shows that, you know, there are some things you just can't guard against.
Yeah, I mean, that, as I say, there's just so much information out there. You can tie yourself up in knots trying to start which is the best way to go. And I think just go with what you feel. I mean, I know about good nutrition, and I know about
Yeah.
exercise and stuff when I'm allowed to exercise. Oh God, my bottom's
Yes. No,
turning to jelly. It's like my bottom, so I've got this tone tight stomach of a 20-year-old, and then I'm like old and fat at the back. But
oh, come
like
on. I'm sure that's not the case.
it's really funny though, because it's like I've got a cut and shut body at the moment, two different bodies going on here, but I can't wait to get back on the bike.
Yeah, well, you will. I'm absolutely sure. So Sapna, just finally, before I let you go, what is your, you know, you're out here, you're sort of campaigning for cancer, or against cancer in a sense. What is your advice for everybody, for women particularly? But I know breast cancer affects men as well.
1% of men, 1% of men, and 1 in 7 women.
Right.
Breast cancer, and 1 in 2 people will get cancer in our lifetime. So that's kind of that's another reason that I wanted to tell my children, by the way, because I thought they're going to come across it at some stage. I'd rather they came across it from us first. You know, they hear it from us first. Sorry. Check yourself. I mean, the first thing is, you know, a lot of women have been saying they're checking themselves. One of my friends actually said that she checked herself, found 2 lumps, and went to the doctor because of me. But they're benign, so you know, hooray. And just don't be scared to go and talk to you know, your doctor if you've got any qualms. Don't be fobbed off as well, because like my friend Lizzie was fobbed off. Women in their 30s can get cancer, breast cancer, and do. So do demand that second opinion quicker. And I believe that Michaela's going to be putting some links in. I have created a bit.ly link for Tits Behaving Badly, which will is a cancer research, well, it's a donation page for cancer research. So if anybody does want to donate, I'd be hugely grateful, because I'm just raising the amount of technology that they have used to treat me, to diagnose me. It's insane. You know what they've gone through, and we're getting the bills coming through, not the bills, we're medically insured. We're getting the statements, and we're coming up to about 100 grand's worth of treatment already.
Unbelievable.
You know, so this stuff is expensive. The research is expensive, treatment's expensive, and I was saying the #1 cause of bankruptcy in America is healthcare. So one thing I would say is, if you can afford to get healthcare, do, because who knows how long the NHS will be around. We hope it will be around, but you know, you can't bank on that as you get older.
Well, it probably wouldn't have, your treatment probably wouldn't realistically have been as quick as it has been on the NHS, I suspect. I don't know, I might be wrong.
The NHS do prioritise breast cancer, and
yeah,
my thought was just that we can afford it, then it's taking pressure off the NHS. It's leaving a bed free for somebody who needs it, who maybe hasn't got private health insurance. And it meant I had a private room, so that was kind of quite nice. Yeah, it's hugely expensive. So if you know, I was talking to some of my friends, my entrepreneur friends who are on this, hello, and just sort of saying, you know, if you haven't got private healthcare, then it's worth getting, and maybe even income, you know, insurance, which we didn't have, and we don't have. And now, as my oncologist had said, this cancer diagnosis will affect everything that I apply for in the future.
Yes,
I'm not going to get insurance for anything. That we're basically stuck with the insurers that we've got, who've been great now, Vitality, but we can't change health insurance now, because nobody will take me. And even some travel insurers won't take me. There's all sorts of stuff. So if you were thinking about putting those policies in place, do it now whilst you're well.
No, that's all incredibly good and practical advice, but I think more than anything, thank you very much for sharing, for being so open and honest. I mean, here, but also, you know, on social media and with everybody generally. Your story is inspiring and in many ways, and I think it's wonderful how you've handled this with your family and with your children. And I hope that it opens up a lot more conversation around this. And please do come and look at the comments, because people are, you know, kind of really, lots of people, you know, here, Obi and Lucy and are here, and Michaela's, as we speak, posting all sorts of links in the comments. So please do come back and have a look. But for now, thank you so much for being here, Sapna, and all the very, very best with your journey.
Thank you, Lucy, for having me, and thank you everyone for tuning in, and I will be reading all the comments. One thing I will say, because I got a question about it the other day, is I am still working with clients, by the way, so don't feel that if you if you don't want you to bother me, if I don't want to be bothered, I'll let you know, but I quite like being bothered at the moment, because I've got to sit around, I can't exercise, I can't do the school run. It's yeah, my brain and hands are still working.
Fantastic. Well, that's
right,
really
then.
good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sapna, and hopefully you'll come and tell us where you're up to, and give us an update before too long.
I'll update once I have an update, once I've seen my oncologist next Friday. So
absolutely.
Right, take
all
care.
the best for that.
Thanks very much. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Bye.